Hello and welcome our blood viewers to Artis News English Edition. As usual, we'll bring to you the top and major highlights of tonight. Debate on the general policy of the government, National Assembly. Lunch of the week of English at the Teacher Training Center in partnership with the US Embassy. And in the international scene in Sudan, Riyadh and Washington support dialogue to end hostilities. Those were the major and top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. The large religious meeting of Tajura conference, better known as Al Ijtima, closed this morning with the collective du'as, the invocation in the prayer. This annual meeting, organized by the Djibouti Tabligh Preachers Movement during 3 days at PK9, has brought together dams of fidels from the capital of the country's regions, but also from other continents such as Asia and Europe. Note the participation of the Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, and military officers during these 3 days of the team of the hospital of Tajura. At its head, Dr. Dimbio have mobilized all the team and have provided medical consultation for the benefit of the faithful of Ijtima. This religious conference of Ijtima is intended to educate the faithful on the good practice and set the objective to raise awareness on the values of our holy religion Islam, which promotes harmony, tolerance, respect between the faithful. Some people stayed on the site to attend this religious conference during 3 days. Others arrived in the evening not to miss the collective du'as that close the conference of the Ijtima. Moving towards the National Assembly now, our blood viewers, where today they hosted a session devoted to the debates of the general policy of the government led by the Speaker of Parliament, President Deleta Mohamed Deleta. This session follows the statement of the general policy of the government made by the Prime Minister, Mr. Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed. In his introductory remarks, the President of the National Assembly recalled the constitutional and regulatory provisions governing the organization of the debate on the general policy of the government in good conditions before reminding members of the government and parliamentarians to comply with them. The session took place in the presence of the members of the government and those of the national representation. On the agenda were the traditional debates of the general policy for the government as well as questions from parliamentarians to members of the executives. During the sessions, the parliament members addressed several points related to the concerns of the population in their interventions. In the hemicycle, the elected representatives of the people have raised a number of topics of issues, major priorities such as the economy, education, energy, social development, employment, security, transport, tourism, and health. Faced with the questions of the deputies, the Prime Minister and the members of the government answered the various questions of the parliamentarians. Before entering into the heart of the questions and answers, the parliamentary debate began with the speeches of the chairman of the parliamentary group of the different parties, namely the parliamentary group of RPP, FROOD, and UDG, or as a whole expressed their unwavering support and commitment to the enlightened vision of the President of the Republic, His Excellency, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh. The president of the parliamentary group of the ruling party, RBB, made a speech during the session. In his speech, he emphasized the importance of prioritizing economic development, job creation, and social welfare. He also highlighted the government's efforts to improve infrastructure, including the construction of new roads and other key projects. The president of the parliamentary group of the party, Frood, delivered a speech. He focused on issues related to democracy, human rights, and social justice. He called for greater transparency and accountability in government institutions and stressed the need for the government to address the concerns of marginalized communities. Finally, the president of the parliamentary group of the opposition party, UDG, spoke. She focused on issues related to education, healthcare, and social welfare. She also emphasized the need for increased investment in these areas and called on the government to prioritize the needs of the most vulnerable segments of society. The session was marked by lively debates and constructive exchange between the parliamentarians and the members of the government throughout the session. Parliamentarians addressed several points related to the concerns of the population, including the ceremony, the economy, education, energy, social development, employment, security, transport, tourism, and health. They raised important questions and provided feedback on various government initiatives and policies. To their response, the members of the government provided detailed answers and explanations to address their concerns. The discussions were productive and constructive, highlighting the commitment of the government and parliamentarians to work together towards the development and progress of the country. It was then the turn of the Prime Minister, Mr. Abdul Ghadir Kamil Mohammed, to address the parliamentarians. He began by discussing the government's commitment to economic development and job creation, emphasizing the importance of attracting foreign investment and promoting private sector growth. He highlighted the government's efforts to improve infrastructure and other key projects that will help to support economic growth and development. The Prime Minister also discussed the government's plans to discuss issues related to education and healthcare, stressing the importance of ensuring access to quality education and healthcare for all citizens. In addition, the Prime Minister discussed the government's plans to address issues related to energy, including the promotion of renewable energy sources and development of new energy projects. Overall, the Prime Minister's speech provided a comprehensive overview of the government's general policy, highlighting the government's commitment to promoting economic development, social welfare, and regional stability. The National Assembly hosted last Thursday the closing of training dedicated to parliamentarians. The closing ceremony was chaired by the Secretary General of the National Assembly, led by international and national experts. During the training, which took place over 3 days, which allowed the MPs to better understand the function of the administrative services of the National Assembly, better consolidate the understanding of the issues related to the rules of Member of Parliament, deepen the mastery of MPs of some technical aspects of parliamentary work, including community work. The objective of this program is to allow new MNAs, Member of Parliaments, to be better prepared for their mandate. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, and U.S. Ambassador to Djibouti, Mr. Jonathan Pratt, sponsored today the launch of the English Week at the Teacher Training Center of Basic Education. The ceremony was attended by many executives and officials of MENFOP, the U.S. Embassy and USAID, and the student teachers of CFEEF Umar Gelle Ahmed. Note that many educational activities are included in the agenda of this week of celebration of the English language. These activities, which will take place namely at the CFEEF, will involve inspectors, pedagogical advisors, and trainers, as well as student teachers who will follow these interventions with high pedagogical value.
Has gained ground in Djibouti for the last 20 years. due to this geographical location. And with that, we had two, reforms that the Ministry of Education has taken care of. The first was the État Généraux 1999. In that reform, English has been introduced in grade 6. And after 20 years, another review has been done, and English has been introduced in primary schools in grade 3. This was followed by trainings and textbook writings and hiring, massively English teachers. It's what we have here today.
For his part, the American ambassador to Djibouti, Mr. Jonathan Brath, announced that this was his last week in Djibouti and that he was delighted to conclude his term in Djibouti with the inaugural ceremony of the celebration of the English Week. Let's listen to him.
So to be here with you in one of my final acts, one of my final days here in the country is very meaningful because I think that education is truly the key to what we are doing and to our development in every country. I know this myself from my own personal experience. I started my whole career as a teacher just like you. I was and in fact, when I moved from teaching primary school in Los Angeles to training English teachers in Africa, the job actually became much easier. Training professors who are already university educated, they know what they're doing, they have a very high level of education coming in, and they're very motivated like yourselves. That job is much easier than having 40 10-year-olds, I can tell you for sure. We worked together on a program called DEGRA. And DEGRA, to me, is really one of the signature achievements of our bilateral relationship. We worked with the ministry to develop textbooks for early grade reading for the youngest readers. And over a period of 3 or 4 years, we've been able to improve the test scores of these young readers by 10%.
The minister began his speech by reminding the audience that this week is part of the promotion of the English language in teaching and learning. This is an opportunity for him to emphasize that the growing importance of the place of this language in professional life and in the development of human capital. The National Tourism Agency, in collaboration with the Institute of Statistics of Djibouti and the Economic Commission for Africa, the United Nations, organized this morning to launch the work of the training workshop of the development of tourism satellite accounts, and this training will last 5 days in the People's Palace. This training workshop was chaired by the Minister of Trade and Tourism, Mr. Mohamed Warsa Madiri, and was attended by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Economy, the Director General of the National Tourism Agency, an expert for the Sub-Regional Office of the ECA, and representative of ministries and institutions. The objective of the workshop is to equip the focal points on the various tools and methodology of the establishment of tourism satellite accounts that will serve as an important statistical instrument of analysis to measure the direct economic impact of the tourism sector in the overall economy of Djibouti.
Member states in Africa are seeing the opportunities that the tourism sector actually has for our economies in terms of its contribution to, for example, GDP, gross domestic product, its contribution to employment, its contribution to government taxes, its contributions to investments, and so forth and so forth. We at the Economic Commission for Africa have been supporting this exercise for quite a while now. We started working with the first tourism settled account we did was for Rwanda.
The minister's speech focused on the importance of tourism satellite accounts as a statistical tool for measuring the direct economic impact of the tourism sector in Djibouti's overall economy. He highlighted the need to equip focal points with the necessary tools and methodology to establish such accounts very effectively. This weekend, the Minister of Infrastructure and Equipment, Mr. Hassan Muhammad Ibrahim, went to the region of Dakhil to see the reconstruction of the National Road number 1, precisely the section of Dagairu and Galamo. The visit was attended by the Prefect of the Dakhil region, Mr. Aden Musa, the President of the Regional Council, Mr. Mahad Ahmed Hussein, the Director General of the Djibouti Roads Agency, the Director General of the DPCR, as well as representative of the contracting company Al Ayuni, the subcontracting company CCECC, and the consultatory firm Saudi Tech. It should be also noted that despite the delays caused by the torrential rains observed in recent weeks, the work has resumed and is being carried out in good conditions. The company is committed to increasing human and material resources to make up for the delay and finish the work within the contractual deadline. The Djibouti Roads Agency, the project's elected project manager, remains mobilized to complete the reconstruction work as soon as possible. The minister thanked the stakeholders of this project for the welcome they gave him and expressed his willingness to carry out this project. On Thursday, after the southern regions, the caravan of literary meetings of Ambassador Ahmed Areta Ali in its second stage continued its journey in the northern regions. As part of this cultural program, the Ministry of Youth and Culture, Dr. Hibu Mumin Asawi, sent the technical team in charge of this operation to the region of Tajurra. The team, led by the director of the region of MGC, Mr. Suleiman Hamad Abdin, including the diplomat author Mr. Ahmed Areta Ali, who has just published The Years in the Land of the Rising Sun in the Shadow of the Flag of Djibouti at the national editions of Le Francolin, began its tour in the White City on Saturday, May 6, 2023. The conference room of the Gadili Hotel hosted this literary meeting in the presence of the authorities of the region, namely the Deputy Prefect, Mr. Habib Jilani, the Vice President of the Regional Council, and the Djiboutian author Mr. Abdul Qadir Makki, the Deputy Director of the said Ministry of the region, teachers of schools in Tajurra, young people passionate about literature, and etc. During the presentation of his book to the public, the writer Areta explained the reasons that led him to write this book, which highlights the professional career of his experiences in diplomacy. Thus, the writer transmitted to the young people the messages of the book and his wise advice while calling them to become better acquainted with the book's vectors of transmission of culture, knowledge, and creativity.
Ambassador.
Well, let's take you all to Sudan, where the fight continues in undebated on Sunday as emissionaries of the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces in the Republic of Sudan gave up no indication of their ongoing ceasefire negotiations in Saudi Arabia. Riyadh and Washington welcomed the opening of a dialogue and urge the belligerents to actively engage. Well, by this, our blood viewers, we finally conclude this edition. Thank you for being with us, and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.